Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI Interconnect podcast, where we explore the front line of innovation, automation, and impact across PropTech, real estate, and beyond. I'm your host, Laurent, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who sits right at the intersection of global real estate and transformational technology. James Huang is the managing director of RESAAS and founder of BRC Advisors and previously president of EXP Commercial, a company reshaping RESAAS, a company reshaping how agents, brokers, and enterprise networks connect and close deal across borders. And James, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Laurent, thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be here. It's great to share it through social media and just catch up with the world. And I love that now technology is bringing us all closer together. We just got to be responsible, right, with this immense amount of power through technology.
You're right. So good words, exactly. And let's have a nice talk, and you will tell us everything. I hope, James. You have had an extraordinary journey in real estate, from national leadership role to international business development. And let's rewind for a moment. How did your career in real estate first begin, and what drew you into the broader world of technology and innovation?
Yeah, no, this is great. So I always say I'm a Gen Xer. So technology hit us as little kids. And how we loved it was this was the innovation of personal computers that popped up. We all know we loved Atari, right? So we were playing video games at home. We were like, wow, this is amazing. So in a way, we were the last generation to have no technology, right? We had the phones connected to our homes, right? That's the only way we could communicate. We had to memorize, at least 20 numbers, if not more, to contact people. And then all of a sudden we had Atari in the 70s, and we're like, wow, this is fun. We can play video games at home. And then we had the personal computer in the 80s, right? With whether it's IBM or Apple. Then we saw the emergence of the internet in the 90s, right? And then all of these changes to virtual reality and now AI, but having, being part of it, watching all of these growth of how tech innovation, transformation happened was very exciting. And I would say for me, I fell into real estate by accident. Many people I know in the audience, they don't think of a career in real estate. They think of maybe selling homes, but commercial real estate is very foreign. They don't understand, but most people do start in residential. But very few people say, I'm going to be in commercial because unless you were exposed to it, you didn't do it. For me, it was supposed to be in medicine. And then I went into portfolio managing Wall Street. So I did, funds and analyst work and all these other fun things. But there was an interesting skill set. So that's kind of how I fell into real estate and commercial real estate is purely by accident, Laurent.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, some of my guests told me the same thing, and it's always fun because I mean, obviously, I mean, at the beginning we do things, we touch a little bit of everything, and there's one big things in our life. Owning a home, real estate is part of every day. Commercial real estate makes a lot of sense also. This is like such a huge market, and I didn't even know lately. Someone were telling me that PropTech is so small compared to CRE. The
Mhm.
CRE market is like 100 times the capitalization of PropTech. Then I hear your word, and I love your story, and let's dig in. Were there any specific turning points, or either big wins or tough challenges that shape your leadership philosophy?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. most of us, we learn through pain and suffering. It's just, can we get out of it? So I would say a lot of times, anytime you make a big change from what career path you thought you were going to do to something different, it is always scary. It always is challenging. And I always tell people, find a mentor, build a network around you so you can, have that safety. But a lot of times you may not know it, you may not reach out, so you just are by yourself, in a way, walking through the wilderness. So, really changing from Wall Street or really to real estate was very different. But the skill sets that you developed was relationship building, cold calling, networking, analytical skills that helped make my transition easier into real estate. And I say I did have some success going through it, but 2007, 2009 hit. Those that were around, I'd say grayer hair, or sometimes I laugh and say no hair, but gray hair. We saw the world changing, right? We saw the AsianFlu.com, maybe RTC1 in the US, right? A lot of changes and dips in the market, like maybe even right now, we're seeing something happening. But the 2007 and 9 was a great recession. It hit hard, especially if you were in real estate, residential or commercial. And because of that, Laurent, I literally at that time, through success and just hard work, I would say had it all, the lifestyle people wanted, and lost it all. Because the market dropped, things froze over that nothing could happen, but you still had to pay the bill, you still had liability, you still had debt, you still had employees, you still had to manage and handle your team, your people through it. And I would say I did the biggest growing up through that time, through immense amount of suffering, pain, being bombarded in all different directions of what was going on, seeing friends suffer, right? Sharing notes, which at least I called other friends. But I would say from that, it literally transformed my life. I had little ups and downs along the way, but that was, I had it all to I lost it all, to I had to start over from scratch. But what it did for me, Laurent, was to look in the mirror and say, I don't like that person. What type of person do I want to build if I'm going to build myself back? And that's when I've always volunteered. I always like playing it forward, giving back, helping out. But I really at that point said, I'm going to make a bigger impact. So a lot of times they say, when you pass away, who shows up, and what do they say about you? I wanted people to say, he was a good man that wanted to give back, wanted to help others. So I did volunteer a tremendous amount. And I found, a couple of the passions I am still doing today, after now 20 years plus, that I just keep serving and giving and helping, because what I've learned from that experience really made me a better person. And I'll tell you this too, Laurent, it made me grateful. It got me grounded. And I am just overall, no matter what happens now, a very happy person.
Fantastic. That's sounds like a happy story starting with a disaster, but yeah, we went through a very tough time, and we made it. Then that's why you're here to tell us that stories, and I really appreciate. This is great. And for listeners who don't know yet, RESAAS is a public company.
Yes.
It's also it's more than a listing platform. It becomes a trusted operating system for real estate network around the world. Can you take us behind the curtain? What was the original idea behind RESAAS, and how has that vision evolved over time?
Yes. So, Laurent, yeah, it was a vision of Tom Rossiter that knew there was a better way of sharing, but just not marketing listings, but building communities, right? That is what Tom built. So he did build RESAAS as an award-winning technological platform. And then it was just staying in the game longer. And as long as you stay in the game, transformation, right? Adaption, how you're doing things from not just getting agents to put deals on the platform, but community building, referral building, other ways of accountability to make sure when they send out referrals and listings, you accept it, you acknowledge it, to building now services on top of it, expanding to global networks, understanding different markets in different countries. We know not all rules are the same. Like I would say in the US and certain countries, the real estate is more mature. Other countries, it is the Wild West, right? Anything goes. Everyone's a real estate agent. There's no licenses, right? So that transformation keeps happening. And then building on the commercial part is where my expertise is. I always say the biggest thing is residential agents have a tremendous amount of relationships. They always know business owners, right? A lot of times, business owners lease space, rent space, buy space, looking to scale, doing different things. So there was that opportunity to build and scale the commercial with the residential sending referrals. And commercial, we are always the developers looking at land, understanding the market. When we talked about services right now, the capital markets, right, the flow of cash flow or equity to development projects, property management. So there was just a good fit of RESAAS, of how Tom built it to how we're scaling it now with AI, right? We'll discuss that later. That's a massive topic. And from there, and I'll just tell you this, as I was talking about rules and changes and adoption. In the US, we had the NAR ruling. Before, the MLS was the go-to place to go if you were in residential. At this point, it's a work in progress of seeing what's going to happen, right? We actually don't really know. Right now, there is a discussion of, clear cooperation or not, right? Commissions are not done. So right now, because of the lawsuit that happened last year, there's so many changes. The technology has changed. So everyone needs to adapt. But I would say this, it worked very well for RESAAS from about 400,000, I would say shy of 500,000, jumping to about 800,000 plus, because everyone needed to now find another platform, another tech company, global tech companies, as we've all seen around the world through international MLS, where everyone is talking about, now I know globally they're called portals, not MLS, right? But now these portals, how do we integrate? How do we share? And like you said, the investment is so small in commercial PropTech or technology PropTech for real estate, but it's catching up quick and it's happening fast.
I love it. I love it. This is very interesting. And what would you say makes RESAAS different from the countless PropTech platform that have come and gone over the past decade?
Well, one thing I would say, it is the largest one in North America, mostly concentrated in a very large market, which is the US, right? Many people around the world wants to penetrate and target the US market, right? Besides other large markets that people want to tap into. Because the US, I would say majority, over 700,000 people are in the US market that we can tap in and reach to. It makes it very interesting and good strategically to market and tap into that, because I know a lot of international markets, I would say the Asian or Chinese market wanted, right, to go to the US. US was always looked at as a flight to safety, stability, calmness, regardless of what happens in the world. You don't like it or not, right? But that's what it is, right? Because it's really the currency, right? And being in commercial and finance before, it's the currency fluctuation. Okay, I don't like the rating being cut, but there are some macroeconomics and now microeconomics affecting. So, but US is always that flight to safety. And because RESAAS has so many of the members, I would say, of the agents that do real estate on our platform, it makes it very attractive in the US, outside of the US to plug in. It's just the biggest market. And a lot of people too want to take US dollars, which we've all seen. Great to travel. I went to Paris, London, and others, right? But the US dollar converted to other currencies is very strong. So sometimes, as long as you find the right person, it's good to take the US dollar and put it in other countries. And I know before, my partners and I, when there was the oil crisis, currency crisis in Canada, we moved money there. Right now, I know a bunch of friends around with the yen trade. The yen was being bought in Tokyo and a lot of Japanese assets because, seeing the yen at 160 or above that was amazing, right? So buying in yen from your currency was something challenge was something very opportunistic. So Laurent, that's what I say. Working with RESAAS, it's because it's such a large platform with a huge database. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, that's refreshing and very interesting. Yes, definitely. Let's um, let's see and let's get into the reality of today's market. And from your point of view, what are the most painful challenges brokers and agents are facing right now, especially post-COVID and in this hybrid, a fast-moving landscape that we have right now?
Yeah, and it is a tougher market. Good brokers will always still get good. Bad brokers or poor brokers that are not consistent will fall to the wayside. We always see this in every market cycle. I would say the biggest challenge, right, is the changes with the tariffs, right? Right now, over the last, I would say, uh, last quarter, but let's say 6 months, right? The higher interest rates that we were adjusting to that started in COVID in the US really affected all other markets, right? So the cost of funds has gone higher. Real estate prices have not come down to the point of the increase of interest rates. Adjustment of those is a process, right? And it takes time to adjust to a new norm, which those that have been around maybe in the 2000s, right? That was the interest rate. But now that we had a dip to almost most around the world, less than a 2% interest rate now jumping up 6, 7, 8, right? And depending on the country, with currency, it could be higher. The tariffs obviously was thrown into the world that really changed everyone. And I'd say a lot of times it made a lot of uncertainty for people, whether going into a recession, global recession, being triggered by what's going on, right? But uncertainty makes people pull back from doing deals or business. And this affects the agents and people trying to do business because people will say, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait 1 quarter. I'm going to wait 2 quarters. I'm going to wait the whole year to wait to be sure, right? Because these are investment dollars and these are long timelines sometimes for infrastructure and logistics. You are not going to place your bet in an uncertain market. Cost of funds, you're just going to say, I'm going to hold back and wait. And waiting doesn't help service agents and other industries just waiting for something to happen from these big companies.
You are seeing a lot of wait and see attitude lately.
Tremendous amount.
Mm.
We've
Wow.
kind of started seeing this when some people, I would say, in the know knew about this. Why did Warren Buffett and a lot of people put so much money in cash? Well, some people, as you say, higher up, they're in the know. They're the ones that people consult with, talk to. They're in the know. But we can see the trickle down effect of what's going on. We always say the stock market is kind of a leading indicator, and there's other things that are going on and being affected, but there are so much uncertainty and volatility, right? So a lot of times
Of
I say
course.
watch forward indicator like the stock market, like the bond market, right? And I know this may be more commercial, but us commercial practitioners, we build logistics, warehouses, supply chain, right? All of that. So when we talk to these large companies, we have to get in front of them to understand what is going on, where is everyone moving, and it is a longer cycle than, let's say, in residential where you can buy a home in a month. But in commercial, it's a multi-year, at least yearly planning, right? Or even in commercial, transactional periods can still take 1 quarter. So in commercial, there's longer cycles. So as we look at this, we're stretching it out, but we can connect the dots to figure out from the economics and everything going on, and it impacts, right? I always say, Wall Street to Main Street. Main Street is being affected because Wall Street and big numbers are affecting everyone else with their decisions, whether it's, layoffs, unemployment, uh, disbursement of capital or investment of capital. When does that happen? And the development of all the supply chain.
Very right. It's awesome. And following my challenges on the tech side, where are traditional systems or processes still holding people back?
I would say this, the biggest thing that I see that's holding people back is using it and using it on a consistent daily basis, integrating it into your lives. I mean, there are some people that, I talk to, Jim, I don't know how to use Zoom or Google Meets or any of this tech because they just don't use it, right? The hardest thing that I see, and this is an age issue because some of the younger kids are much better than we are, knowing how to plug program. I always laugh that it's almost like in our generation, we used to laugh at our parents because they couldn't program the timer on the VCR, right? You keep blinking 12, 12, 12 with the power. And the parent says, can you reprogram the clock, right? When the power goes out, right? We laugh, but the kids nowadays, they grew up, they were in technology. They were immersed in technology. So, social media and so many others that they could run circles around us, right? It's different. It's good and bad. But the challenge is it's an age issue where the older do not want to adapt and use it. And in the real estate, I've heard so many say, I'm just going to die with my boots on or retire. I don't need to use it because they have relationships in the business and they could be putting it on a notebook, right? Or a filofax or just whatever they want to do. And they're fine. But you got to integrate and use it. And there is that younger generation to the older, I would say above 50s, just not using it because they either created enough wealth. But those that have not created their wealth, it is challenging if you're not using and integrated into tech in your daily life. So I would say, Lauren, that's the biggest thing. It's just not using it or adapting into your life. And I think if you do that, it will be better. But that is the biggest challenge. It's not so much the tech. It's just you're not using the tech.
Yes, definitely. Then it's very interesting. Let's move on to tech shift, and then RESAAS was ahead of, ahead of the curve when it came to cloud-based infrastructure, data visibility, and integration. Now we are entering the AI era. What changes are you seeing in how teams are thinking about automation, intelligence, and efficiency?
You know what? This is the constant emerging quick thing that before in real estate timelines, and I would say residential was the leading indicator of commercial, is being compressed. It's so much quicker that many people, I would even say quarterly, but even monthly, tech platforms in AI are popping up like crazy, right? So with the AI revolution right now is actually automating into systems. There's going to be a point where I've talked to people saying there's going to be the first billion-dollar company with one person. And that's because of AI. Because AI is just not intelligence. As long as you have the data sources, right? And now people are locking in data because they realize data is the oil, the power, right? And they were opening it up into those large search engines and everything else, so you can plug into these large data sets. We've all known hallucination, right? Issues that it's not accurate, right? So you still need, I would say, like when you're doing student drivers, you still need the instructor to drive next to the student driving. They can probably do it. Some is good and bad depending on industry, but you still need somebody next to you. But many people were always calling, having a co-pilot, having something with you. It is great to research to do it more efficient and quicker, but you still need that person next to it that is the expert that can look at it. But what it does do for you could be a 10 times, 100 times X more efficient and quicker, right? Before sending out emails, automating systems, AI can do that all for you. And it's very interesting. I had these discussions with people. Before people say, get the white collar job. Well, the white collar jobs are going to be displaced by AI, not the blue collar job. The plumber, the service industry, that is actually going to survive because
You're
AI
right.
replaces, right, the white collar job and the intellectual job. And right now it's not there yet, but it's getting better and better. And you're right, the laws and regulation and adoption. It's like blockchain. We've seen blockchain for a long time now, right? Universities had this. But the problem is regulations, compliance, resources at a federal, state, government, province, whatever level of country. They have to catch up and understand this, right? We've seen the discussion of crypto, right? It's illegal, it's not illegal. And we've seen this in other industries where how does it work? And I'll tell you what's going to slow this down is it cannot be adopted with regulations and rules and laws at the government level. And that's kind of what I see that's going on. But a lot of it could help agent services to just automate, plug in, use the data. A lot of the menial tasks, and we do tell people to put a flow chart of what you do all day. More than 50% is just repetitive tasks that you can turn into AI. A lot of VAs could be done by AI now, as long as you find the right platforms. And because there's so much popping up now, it's overwhelming and confusing.
That's true. That's true. There's so many tools that has the same utility and confusing people. The main thing should be education of uh, of what's happening, and how is RESAAS adapting to this moment, whether with uh, partnership, with product updates, or new internal capabilities.
Yeah, no, very good question. A lot of it is collaboration. As you know, some of these systems are open, like Linux back then, right? Because then you can share data, leverage each other internally. AI needs to be done because search engines, you heard what Google said, you know, search is going to be transformed, maybe not gone, but transformed to AI, that you ask a question, it gives you an answer. So now pretty soon, let's say in RESA is going to be, I want to buy a home on the beach at this square footage and price. You just, like the prompts, ask questions. From there, instead of search, you ask questions, and with, depending on the data sources, or let's say leverage data with other partners, it's going to give you the answer. It's going to tell you you should live in Barcelona, you should live in Bali, you should live in maybe Thailand, right? And then you could go down, and this is very interesting. English speaking, safety ratings, right? A lot of what schools, what people want. Now, instead of search, it's ask. So I know in Resas and partnership, we are now partnering, finding ways to now ask the question to give you good answers or the best answers within the database or the partner's database to help you, right, do this. And then interactions with agents to share opportunities and knowledge, right? Because the more information and data you put, these are the large data sets, the large models that people are putting together. The more and more interaction, the larger it gets, the better it's going to get. And all these improving, like I said, it's not even happening in quarters. I see it's happening in months or sometimes weeks. It is accelerating at such a fast pace. And Laurent, I'm glad you brought up educate yourself. Put yourself, and it's everywhere now, into AI networks so you can listen and learn. Because there are people that say, oh, I like this product is better than that product, this is better than that, I'm using this. And a lot of times they give you free trials that you can look at it. But it is important to plug into these AI groups, even these low cost Udemy and other courses you can find. You don't have to pay it from Harvard or MIT, right? We saw those $20,000 courses. I mean, if you want to later, sure. But I'd say get a part of AI groups and then go to some of these information learning. But AI, like virtual realities, is definitely not going away. It's in front of us, and it is going to be the brain of a lot of the automative systems like the robots and technology. It's AI. that's going to run it.
Very wise and great words. I love it. Um, One thing that really sets REAS apart is its global footprint. And can you talk about the mindset and systems required to operate across borders while maintaining trust and speed at the local level?
Well, there's different levels. If it's just showcasing marketing, depending on rules and laws, easier. But if there's other steps, harder, right? You got to have the right rules, laws on marketing. I know in certain countries, there's firewalls. You can't see it. You can't market it unless you have a corporation or something in their country. So there are going to be holes, right? It's not going to be this global way because sometimes the internet are not allowed in certain countries that you has open source to see anything you want. So you're not going to always have full coverage because the governments or countries will, lock it down. So the limiting factor is the internet access because it could just block it, right? Whatever content they don't want you to see something. So if you can't even go into country, then it doesn't even matter, right? Not everyone can access the internet, and a lot of platforms are really marketing, showing, giving you information. And that's what it is. So that's easier. But when the country doesn't allow you and your citizens or people just to see what it is, then it doesn't matter, right? So just knowing that of certain countries, you just can't get access because the internet doesn't work the way they want, or they block out certain content that they don't want, people to see in their country. And depending on how many services, how in depth, you just follow country rules. And that is really getting and working with local experts, or like you were saying before, Laurent, the leverage, right, of partnerships. Sometimes don't do it yourself. Have the publicly traded company with assets do a mergers and acquisition, right? A buyout, right? Strategic relationship to hopefully enhancing everyone's market value, to consolidating and doing a buyout or a merger or something else like that, right? That's my finance Wall Street. But sometimes you don't need to build, buy, you rent until you buy or build, depending on what the model looks like. And that's for a lot of the finance, right? To see the economics right behind it. But that's the biggest thing around the global expansion. Not every country is going to have access. And it does depend on, are you just marketing the real estate? Some places don't like that. Are you offering services? Some people are trying to move money, do this, do that. Some governments don't like that, right? So there are different things that they're sometimes not agents, sometimes they're lawyers, right? Or other people doing the transaction. So if it's just a simple knowledge-based sharing, showing, okay, as long as they have access. But when you offer certain services, you have to be compliant and follow the rules and laws. But the good thing is, with all of this globalization, global expansion, knowledge is power, and this is the best. Like what we're doing right now, we could talk to each other, and now I have a friend, Laurent. I could just ask you questions in your country, because without that, you wouldn't know where to go, who to trust, who to be with. And trust is the biggest thing in this whole game of real estate. And really, when it comes to money, you need to trust the other person on the other side of the phone, or for us, right, other side of the Zoom or the website.
Well said, well said. Very wise. Yes. What have been some of your the biggest surprises or lessons um, as you scaled internationally?
Yes, cost of building, getting inventory on the platform, adoption, always challenging. We always say with tech products, you got to have both sides of the equation. You got to not have users and kind of the product. But if you don't have both, right, we all know it's the burn rate. How long can you operate your company, building this, scaling it, marketing it, right? You need awareness, marketing it to get to that point where you are break even at least, to then positive cash flow. But that's the biggest thing, is the two sides of the equation, right? And if you don't have it, it's how fast you get to that point to break even. And in country, that's some of the ways of how much does it cost to market, to get a foothold, what industry, what organizations, what tech could we do as strategic partners to scale, right? And that's a lot of due diligence research, right, is always needed to be done before you go to any country, is the cost. And how long are you going to finance that cost before you say it's not going to work, or whatever you build, you better find a strategic partner or something else that works. But that is the biggest thing, Laurent. It's not like technology, boom, it's in a country. Well, it could be in a country, but no one's using it. No one knows about it. It's just not there, right? You may not have anyone on the platform. And that's the hardest thing, because marketing dollars exposure just to get them on, okay, it costs money. But then it's, if you don't have enough, keeping the people or the agents or whoever else on the platform engaged without excitement, usage, right? Some activity, they're just going to stop using it. Like I said before, technology. So if you don't have enough people to get enough critical mass activity to a point where once they're on the platform, nothing's there, they're going to drop off. And it's just maintaining and fine tuning and keep going. But see, those are the challenges: marketing, giving the awareness, the attention, getting enough activity, deal flow, something, and then fine tuning and constantly adapting to the new environment like AI or anything else. But that is very challenging, because a lot of times you spend the dollars on marketing, you get them on the website, boom, they're off the website because there's nothing going on.
Very true. I love it. Let's talk about 2025 and beyond. If if you could fast forward a few years, um, what do you see changing most in real estate world?
There's probably going to be less. It's going to probably, a lot of times, depending on deal size, more commoditized, right? It's going to be more of a salary than a commission, because we've seen it with growing and watching the internet and data. Information is out there in such an easy way, and the younger generation, believe it or not, they've been used and comfortable to buying cars online. They're used to buying sometimes houses online, right? Going directly to the agent, because they can search and do it all themselves. So I see, at least on the residential, it's getting compressed to almost a commoditization in the industry, with less agents, because the pricing with efficiency of technology and all this data is just going to get squeezed. But I know you may ask me later on, why tech, right? Why did I do tech? And this is the reason, is because of the compression of the agent. And it's not going to go away overnight, but if you add value, let's say luxury, something higher, we always need concierge, right? Especially those that are rich. You use concierge because you don't want to do it. You don't want to type in the information yourself. You want to just call a person that's an expert and say, hey, send me with the travel plan with the best 5-star hotels, because the rich can do this. That's why I say luxury. They're probably not going to, even if they have assistants and help, to look. They want to deal with celebrity agents around the world, and they're going to call them because they can. And they're going to say, buy me a $50 million, condo in Manhattan or London or Paris, right? They're not going to search. So most people have to understand, it is the lower level where people are more price sensitive, to the higher level where they want concierge and more fragmented information. But the minute it gets so commoditized, then it becomes a price point issue of cost. Those that have money want concierge service. We all know that. They will pay for it. But those that are price sensitive are not going to go through somebody giving, let's say, commissions, talking about the US, up to 6% commission. Why do that? When using the internet or information or AI, just ask a question, could lead you to the right property. Maybe there's an agent on one side, or direct in one day, like Amazon. Let's say, get Amazon, Google, one of these AI companies, buy a real estate, put it all into real estate. They already have the consumer, right? I'm already seeing this going on. A lot of direct to consumers already. What's going to happen? So, Laurent, that's why I tell people, stay ahead of the game. And another thing, invest in the AI stocks, even though there's volatility, because if you're going to get disrupted while you're making money, invest in your disruption. And this is why I tell many companies, because there was always a point, Blockbuster could have bought Netflix, right? Every company that got disrupted could have had a chance to seed and buy that company. Whether it was arrogance or something, right? Kodak with digital, it was just sometimes they think they're going to take from their business, but sometimes you got to invest in your disruption as a holding company because you're going to go down, they're going to go up. And I have been seeing a lot of Fortune 500 setting their own venture funds up so they can invest in their disruption. Because as long as your stock value stays up, right, there's something there, right? Like Berkshire Hathaway is a holding company, right? They started gobbling and buying everyone else. So you're going to see more and more of this happening. But I would just tell people to just educate, learn, buy your disruption, stay in the game as long as possible, and hopefully you manage your money, your wealth, and what you're trying to do efficiently. And if you got to exit correctly.
Good words. Good words. And what should leaders be paying attention to now so they're not left behind?
You got to educate. A lot of leaders are old school. They're
Leaders, huh?
all in the 60s a lot of times. They don't want to learn this. Or they know about it, but they don't want to learn. And getting your, CIO, CTO, no, they have a piece. You need to learn it yourself as a CEO, president. Most C-suites should learn it themselves. Board of directors ask good questions because when it's changing, you can't rely on even now AI, right? A chief AI officer now that's popping up. Uh, you can't just rely on them. You do need to get into yourself. Obviously, you hire the expert to plug you in to help your business, but everyone needs to learn, play around with it, because it gives you a better understanding idea. You're never going to, well, you can in some strange way of becoming an expert or learning. I tell younger kids today, depending on what they're studying, I said, oh, you didn't get a college degree or you didn't do this. You should study AI because no one knows what AI is doing right now. So, learning how to prompt, learning how this, you can actually be the AI officer, right? Doing this, and I think that's why we see so many courses popping up on Facebook, Instagram, right? All the social media. Study here at these privileged universities, and it does show people, now you can do this by getting that certificate. But we'll see it evolve into courses, an entire industry that's going to pop up, and we're still early, right? With a lot of things like even blockchain, right? And a lot of this is all going to be starting to put together. And we're going to be surprised, I would say, in 10 years, Laurent, like you were saying, 5, 10 years, we're going to live in a different world because it's catching up and moving so quick.
That's going fast. Very wise word. You're right. Um, James, you have operated in that a very high level in a complex space for a very long time. For a long time. What's what's one mindset or principle that has guided you through the volatility, and that you think more founders, executive, or brokers should keep in mind right now?
Yeah, you don't know anything. And I always have my mastermind network groups. I still have mentors to this day, 70 to 80. I still stay open minded and listen to younger generation. You can always learn something. So every day, I'm having at least 6 conversations with different people. And really, the higher you go, a lot of them, they are executives, they're owners. They're not in one industry. They could be in consumer products, they could be in tech, they could be in manufacturing, they could be in anything. And it's just not just in the US. Like with what we're having now, I'm having global talks, UK, Dubai, in Asia. I mean, I'm literally waking up talking to people all around the world at different times. So the level of talking to leaders, decision makers, global, having conversations every day gives me extreme amount of knowledge and insight. That is what's helping me learn faster than sometimes taking courses, which I love to study and love to understand what's going on, is talking to decision makers, other leaders, and we have all known this, but doing it consistently almost every day, having these discussions and talks, it gives me that knowledge so much quicker. And of course, the closer you have to the larger power sources or the connect, I mean, the really strong decision maker of countries, you hear more, right? So depending on how close, how many conversations, you really know what's going on, and you just have to stay in the game and unfortunately have gray hair or no hair. But if you keep going and making those relationships, right, and you can call C-suite level portfolio managers, right, venture funds, right, that invest in everything. You just talk to them and they just tell you, and you're like, oh man. And hopefully you've gained the wisdom, knowledge through your career to connect the dots, to almost a way predict the future or what may be if you do all those things.
That's beautiful words. Definitely, you're so right. Um, we talked about education before, but connecting with people, connecting the dots. I mean, meeting people, talking, and listening a lot, obviously, and um, and, and that's what I do a little bit with my podcast, and that's what I love. I meet great people, great leaders, great founders like you, and I enjoy keeping the relationship and building things, creating new opportunity, and and we help each other in that way, and we learn from each other, and we educate each other, and and that was James. That was awesome. Um, Thank you for joining us today. It was very, very, very cool to have you. Um, your your clarity, experience, your forward vision are exactly what we aim to spotlight on the AI Interconnect podcast. And for anyone listening, where can we follow you, or check out RESAAS, or BRS or BRC Advisors?
Yeah, please follow or link in with me on LinkedIn under James Huang, Huang. You could see RESAS at the top or EXP, and many other companies like BRC. But I also want to make a plug for volunteering, giving back. ARIA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America, there's a lot of trade groups, volunteer groups that give back. And that's one of the things helping in addition to so many others. So I always say, please follow me or link in with me at LinkedIn with James Huang. Laurent, thank you.
That's wonderful. Ourselves, definitely, we are talking on the long term. We will be uh, chatting and doing many things. But we should have another podcast maybe in a year from now, and
Yes.
and see the evolution of everything. But thank you again, and uh, that's it for today's episode of the AI Interconnect. And if you enjoyed it, share it for with someone who is building the future, or even better, with someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. James, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laurent. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate it.